notwithstanding willing to give up plenty of these earthly things and the choicest of them. Though Esau was one that God hated and had no interest in the blessings of the covenant that Jacob had, whom God loved, yet he had much more outward possessions than Jacob had while he lived. Jacob was a man whose life was remarkably filled up with affliction. Esau became great. His posterity for many ages seemed to have vastly greater possessions. His sons were great men, dukes, Genesis 36. And we read of a great number of kings that reigned over Edom before there reigned any king over Israel, while the posterity of Jacob were in miserable bondage. And though the Edomites or posterity of Esau indeed were subdued by David, and so David served his brother according to Isaac his father foretold, yet that continued but above 250 years. Then they shook off the yoke and regained their liberty in the days of Jehoiada, son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. So that for the most part they were a fat people in outward respects. If the children of Jacob put all their times of bondage together, they were in bondage much more longer than that. So comely has it been, those that God has hated have had more of the world than those that God has loved. This is agreeable to the observation of...
Now he hit it on the nail. The Edomites had more of the world than the Israelites. And when you look at the history of the world, you will see that the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they have had the worst of the world compared to the so-called white man. This is clear throughout history. From the Greeks, the Romans, the British, the French, the Spanish, during colonization, during the so-called slave trade, Jacob has had a less portion of the world. It's clear. Who is Esau? See? Who is the wicked? Who was given the most valuable things in the world, which is the dew of heaven, and who was given the worst? And the part about this, Johnathan Edwards, is that he is a part of the people that was given the richness of the world, and he don't realize it. See, he a part of the nation that was given the richness. That's why he owned slaves, several children slaves with women and men. His grandfather was a pastor, and he owned slaves. See, these are religious Christians, Bible, deeply into the Bible, and they owning slaves. And they don't understand that they're Edomites. That's why he say the wicked God not gonna give the wicked none of his valuable things. He'll give him the worldly thing that he don't put no value into. But the spiritual valuable things, he'll never give them to us, the Edomite.
Job in Job 21, verse 7. Wherefore do the wicked live, become old, ye are mighty in power, and so on. And so that psalmist, Psalm 73, verse 5, and so on, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. But here more particularly, number one, God is often willing to give those that he hates a great plenty and fullness of the enjoyments of this world. They have much more of the world than God's children. God oftentimes gives them abundance of the wealth of the world. They abound in silver and gold, in lands and in apparel, and plenty of provision for meat and drink.
Now that's the 1% who own 99% of the wealth in the world, the so-called white man. The racial wealth gap exposes that, especially in America. See, it's a major racial wealth gap. The so-called white man average almost $200,000, while the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans only got $1,500 to their in their wealth category, which that's fabrication, talking about furniture in a darn car. And that ain't no wealth. You can't trade no furniture in, and you definitely can't trade no car in, but to the junkyard. So this racial wealth gap, the 1%, is the evidence that the so-called white man is Esau, the wicked.
It has doubtless oftentimes been so that some one wicked man that God has hated has been possessed of more than all God's saints in the world. Yea, it may be so when there have been a great many thousands of saints. The same is true in respect to honors and pleasures. Number 2. God has been willing to give them the choices of the enjoyments of the world. Both these have doubtless been verified in many of the kings and potentates of the earth. They have the best that can be found in their dominions, or that can be gotten from any part of the earth. And God freely gives it. He doesn't begrudge it to them, though for the most part such have been those that God has hated. Yea, though he has hated them with an exceeding great hatred. Some of the vilest of mankind, the greatest sinners, God has had the greatest indignation towards them. They have been very great persecutors of God's children. Application number 1. Hence we may learn how very worthless earthly enjoyments, even the best of them, are. God is a great disposer of all things, and none of either spiritual or temporal enjoyments, but only they to whom God disposes. And it is a great evidence how very worthless the choices of earthly enjoyments are in God's esteem, that he will so largely give them out to those that he has no love to, no value for, but that on the contrary he despises and hates with a perfect hatred. He never would distribute those things so plentifully amongst them, while he commonly gives his own children but little of them. Were it not that he knew that they were in themselves very worthless, a very mean, worthless portion. What man in his wits would be willing to take up with that portion that God frequently allots to those that he hates most? If God did not see all those earthly things to be very worthless indeed, surely he would not be willing to give the very best of them to those that he hates. He would reserve some of the choicest of his favorites, but it is not so. He commonly gives the choicest of earthly things, the very cream of all that the earth can afford, to those that he hates, yea, to those that he hates with a peculiar hatred.
He gives the things of the world, the riches. See, Bill Gates, $100 billion. He give that to the wicked, the children of Esau. The Rothschild, $5 trillion, $20 trillion. He give that to the wicked, the children of Esau. That's why they was the dukes and kings way before the Israelites was, because they was in the blessing of Esau.
His children something of those things, so much as is necessary to carry them through their journey towards heaven. But the best of them he commonly gives to them that he hates, the thrones and crowns and palaces of the world, and its chiefest jewels, its greatest dainties, its most costly riches, and its greatest honors, and the highest worldly power and dominions, those things he commonly throws out to some that he hates most.
See, he hates the so-called white man the most. He is the richest man on earth. He has all the costly diamonds and jewels. The so-called Jewish man who claiming to be the Israelites, but in Revelation 2 and 9 say he is the synagogue of Satan. He hates these people the most. They are the richest peoples in the world. They own all the media, all the television stations, all the movies in Hollywood. They own it all. They own the Diamond District. See? They own all of these valuable things of the earth, and God hates them the most. See? And he gives the valuable spiritual things to the Israelites who can understand what the Bible is saying. But these dragons can read the whole book and break it down in simple terms, but don't know that they are the ones that it's talking about.
So much greater argument of those things being very worthless in God's esteem than it is that the master of the house has a worthless esteem of anything, that is, when he throws out to his dogs, his swine, best of them, the choice of things that the earth can afford, yet he never bestows upon them any degree of spiritual blessings.
See, they're not gonna get any spiritual blessing to understand what these scriptures is talking about. Only thing they're gonna get is money and the richness of the earth. They're not gonna understand the Bible. He caught just like he say he gonna throw them things. He said like a rich man. He using God as the rich man, and he saying the rich man gonna throw out trash and waste to his dogs and swine, his dogs and pigs. He not gonna give his children the worst and throw the dogs and the pigs the best. So he gives them the worst, which are the earthly things. And the earth, that means the so-called white men in these other nations are the dogs and the pigs, because they have all the money and all the wealth. But the children of Israel, they only have the spiritual thing, the understanding of the Bible. That's Deuteronomy 29 and 29. The revealing of God's secrets is going to be to the children of Israel and their children forever. Not the so-called white man in any other nation outside of the nation of Israel. Because his children is going to get that spiritual, it's getting that spiritual blessing. Well, we can go back to 1870 and break down a Edomites in so-called interpretation of the Bible and see that he couldn't interpret the Bible. He didn't know what they was talking about. He just knew it was wicked people and righteous people, and Edomites was the wicked, and the children of Israel was the righteous. He can bring it to live today. He couldn't identify who the Edomites was. He couldn't reveal that. He couldn't reveal who the Israelites was. He couldn't reveal that because he wasn't given that spiritual blessing as a pastor, preacher, reading the Bible day and night and enslaving the children of Israel on his plantation. See.
Well, these things are precious in God's sight, and therefore too grand to be bestowed on those that he hates. They are reserved for his favorites. Though he is willing to give those that he hates the best jewels, crowns, yet he never gives them any degree of that pure divine light, holy love, that spiritual anointing.
You hear what he said? Never. He will never give a Edomite, a so-called white man who descend from the nation of Edom, he will never, ever, ever give these people his marvelous light. What's that? First Peter 2:9. See, a chosen generation who he get brought into his marvelous light. Only the children of Israel, he's going to give that marvelous light.
That divine seed, spiritual joy, peace, foretaste of heaven. By no means will they have the least degree of things of this nature. By no means shall any one of them ever have the least dram of spiritual good bestowed. God knows these things are infinitely precious. They are too costly things to be bestowed on those he hates. They have been purchased not with corruptible things as silver. God is willing to bestow a plenty of earthly things and the very best of them on those that he hates, and that he has appointed as vessels of wrath, and that he intends for nothing but misery, because he knows that the best of earthly things can't make them happy. He knows that they can't make them no other than miserable, not the less miserable for them. He knows that however taken some of them are with their portion, that yet they are miserable creatures, yea, that they are the more miserable. Number 2, this may well awaken such among us as yet remain out of Christ and have no other portion than the things of this world. There are some such amongst us still, though God has so wonderfully appeared. Yet I fear there are a number of persons that are given up to men's and women's estates, and shall have no better portion than what God gives to those that he hates. Others have precious blessings bestowed upon them. Precious indeed. They have tasted these spiritual blessings. They know something of the sweetness of communion with God. But yet there are some of you that remain with nothing but the husks, You never tasted anything better than those things that are thrown out to those that are without the gates of the spiritual Jerusalem, amongst dogs and whoremongers. How miserable is your condition?
And see, that spiritual Jerusalem is not a spirit, is the elect of the children of Israel, because all the children of Israel ain't gonna be bestowed that light. That spiritual Israel is the elect that's gonna be chosen out of the full nation that is called, because he calling the whole nation, but only the elect is gonna answer that call and gonna be chosen. But I'm gonna leave it there. All praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rikah Quadash. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai being the name of his only begotten Son, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.